Well, welcome back, traders. The date is March 30th, 2024. Today, we're going to be diving into some technical analysis, specifically focusing on and identifying support and resistance zones of the NASDAQ futures. So, as you can see, I have this chart pulled up. This is the 4-hour chart, and I have drawn out a couple lines here. So, going back into the let's see, the 22nd, you could see that there was some major resistance there at first, and then it sold off and then came back. And then I have on the daily chart from all the way back to last year, I drew this line here that goes all the way up, and this thing's just been trending ever since. So it's been very interesting to watch. However, we don't trade swing trades that long, or at least I don't. And what I'd like to show you is just how to get some support and support zones and demand zones. So looking here, we had one that was all the way back over here, and that was March 12th. And so I marked that price line and made it really thick, go all the way across. Then we had a high of the NASDAQ to right there to 18,709, and then eventually, since then, it's kind of selling off just a little bit. I mean, nothing really too crazy, but there really hasn't been much going on compared to news and etc. So anyhow, what I'd like to do is kind of show these levels. So as we look into the support and demand zones, we can on the 4-hour chart, we have an area right here. This is going to be a very nice. So how I draw it is I get the rectangle, and I will just kind of mark these areas. And these are pretty big areas, but just to have these marked out and to use them to my advantage later, because it just gives me that idea of where you have huge demand coming in and support. And then okay, so then looking up here, I'm not trading on that 4-hour time zone. However, that's just something to give me an idea, like, hey, there could be a lot of support down here. So supply is going to be up top. So up here, as you can see, I drew a line from the highs all the way down to this other longer term line. It's kind of getting a little bit busy up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock it down to a we do 15-minute chart here. Zoom out. So my lines that have been coming down have gotten hit, and so as you can see, I got there, respected it, came almost close to touching it, but didn't. So this it's just they're areas, right? These are areas of just respecting those trend lines down. So we've come across a very interesting situation. So on the shorter time frame, the last 3 days, I drew another line from here and made it really thick, and it came down. And these ones were pretty much well respected, but then it's also, so the confluence here is you have on the bigger time frame, we zoom out from the highs all the way down into the lower time frames. They are kind of showing up, as you can see, from up here all the way down. That's been hit, so that's when I first draw the line, and then again in that area a little bit, and then a little more. But this thicker line that I put in right here is here. I'll make it a little less thick so you can still see it. This has been respected as well, but it's kind of the confluence there is kind of from this larger chart from the highs down, and then just the past couple days, you could see that they're kind of starting to respect that area. And now if we go back and we look at this line here, well, this line here came across. It got, it broke above it for a few days, whatever, came back down and then back up. And then I basically was able to I just kept watching it. But you could see that it kind of tried, came back down, hit the 200. That's the 200 moving average. And it bounced up off of that, came back down, broke below it, and then shot right back up, but then right into this area once again, as you can see, comes down, comes back up, tests it, and then that the candle right there just closed below it, and then it sold down and just kind of stayed below it a little bit. It would try to break above it, and then get rejected, and then eventually just came back down, and now it's kind of hanging around. And this is also in the 1 hour chart, so, because as you see, this is the 200. So we're just watching it. It's getting a little interesting. There was news and things that we were kind of looking at and stuff. So we'll just be watching that for a little while. Now let's get into the demand zones. As you can see, you're gonna have. It's not the best demand zone on the hour chart, but this is going to be one here. So I will go down to a smaller time frame. We can even do 30 minutes and see how it looks. But look at this. This is basically ranging. The range is real. It's here. So that big demand zone was way down here, and as it shot up and went to all-time highs. Now it's just kind of consolidating. It's moving back. Maybe it's setting up for a flag, but as of right now, it's just getting a little interesting. I guess you can technically throw in another line here just to see if it holds, and then so we got to watch this area. It's either going to break up or down, and just going to be interesting to watch. It's got a lot of pressure on top. As you can see, these are all, it's a lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. But now this little area here has been holding, and on the 30-minute, it's actually technically below the 200-day moving average. But I would only respect that a little more if it was on the 1 day. So 1 day, 1 year, obviously it's not. So you got plenty of room to the 200. Okay, so going back, if we go to a 15-minute chart, it depends on what you're trading, but it's good to see kind of where we're at. So right now, these areas are being rejected. I don't like anything above this line to go long unless I see something come out and break, like from here, and it goes above, and then kind of comes back down, retests, holds, and then continues higher. But then you have this other line that's right there that could be in the way, or even this top of this area that got rejected as well, because then it could double top, come back down, break below, retest here, and then continue or lower, and even break below this support here. So there's a lot to be watching, and I know it looks like a bunch of lines, but what I will do is I will show you some areas. So let's just call it like I'm going to say this is going to be a supply zone for sure in this area. So supply meaning that we don't really want to buy into this whole area. So for me, I draw a supply zone at the very top of here, down to that other green that broke there, that green candle that broke there, and bring it across. So bring it across, and we'll mark it, and then we'll edit the properties. And what I like to do is change it to a color that's going to be bearish. So what you could do is you could wait for, that to go back up into this area in this zone and then reject. So if you saw something happen that kind of came up in here and then up again and then rejects, comes back down, that's where you can get in short, and your stop, I would say, would be in this area up here, just outside. This would be your stop area, because you don't want to risk too much. I mean, that's already going to be a few points. I mean, especially unless you're trading the micros. I mean, the minis, that's going to be a significant amount of money, depending on how many contracts you take. Just one even could be getting people to sweat a little, because if it comes back up and blasts through and continues on, well, then that's your stop there. You're out. But what we're hoping is that it continues to come back down, hit this, might probably bounce back up, retest, come back down, blow through that, and then continue, obviously, to keep going down. More. So, that's going to be our supply zone up here, and our demand zone is going to be on the bottom. So, this is all short-term demand zones. This one already kind of came up off of this area and came up and then down, and then just kind of, that was it for that. But we could still mark this whole area down here. I would say go to the bottom of this here, and then honestly I'd give it a little room for that demand zone. It's unfortunate, but it's going to be kind of a larger area. They've all been pretty big. I'd go to the lows there, and I'd mark this out. So as you can see, we have, I'll go green. That's going to be our supply and demand zone for the NASDAQ coming into Monday morning. We just got to be diligent. We got to be smart, and we got to really watch the price action. I utilize the book map, and I like to watch to see what volume's coming in, to see if they're taking out levels and taking out the passive sellers and buyers. And that's something I also would watch for up here as well. I mean, if there's a lot of heat map stuff showing us that there's a lot of sellers hanging out there and trying to keep it down, I like to see when the buyers are coming in and then they're buying, and it shows the big old orbs or whatever, those little planets, and they're just buying tons of volume, but it's not really moving the price. That's usually a pretty good indicator. But I also like to look at the candles and then make sure that maybe it buys up and then it wick off top and then comes back down and reverses right back down. So it's just something to watch. I'd say the top of the supply zone there is around the 18,570s, and then down at the bottom of that supply zone is going to be in the 1850s. So it's it's a little bit of a move. So if you need to take smaller size and get the MNQs, you could do that, or you could you trade your book. So you do what you want. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the price action, and then also coming back down here again. If it kind of gets in this range here, this range is pretty big. We know that there's a lot of support at the 18,400 area. There was before, and as you kind of come back out and you see this kind of dump down pretty low here, but then once it came up, came back down. Here's in the 1830, whatever, and that was kind of weird. It bounced and then came back down into this support zone again. This is definitely the demand zone. It bought, it came down pretty good, but then it also pivoted right off that line there too, that I drew from earlier. I can back out. That's going to be one of those longer term lines. But that was just kind of in this area, touching here in that area, just drawing it, bringing it down. So, yep, those are the zones, and I would watch the supply and demand zones, and highly suggest to not diddle in the middle. Don't diddle in the middle of all this. This is just a bunch of junk, unless, like I just said, you want to watch this line here, which this line is around the 18,500 range area. So you got to give it, it's an area, it's a zone. It's not necessarily sticking right to that line. So yep, watch for that area here. I would say, hopefully not a lot of chop, a break, a break up and out, and then back down, retest and holding, and then going back up. I mean, you got some good point. You got a good amount of points there. That's a good trade. And then I'd say after it hits this line or this area in the 500 range, next candle to make a new high. That's when you can get in, and then you could also stop out. Could be, a few points below. But remember that you want to risk first reward. We are managers of our accounts, and we're just money managers. We just have to make sure that we don't lose our account and blow it up. So yep, I'd say just risk to probably going to be just below this area here of the 500 range. I'd say like maybe even 495, but to the 18,495s. Yeah, depends. I mean, you gotta give it some room to breathe. I mean, you know how these how the NASDAQ is. It could whipsaw pretty good, but it all depends on what the price action's doing that day, and we'll see how it goes. Everybody's gonna be eager to want to trade after a holiday weekend, and it's gonna be interesting. All right. Well, also I did want to mention, I don't know if anybody out there likes to use prop firms, but I use that Apex prop firm. I've got multiple accounts that I trade with, and I also have a cash account that I trade on Tradeovate with. I'm leaving a link in the description if you guys want to get a little action on them and try them out. It'll help the channel and hopefully get you guys an account. And if you guys want anything else, like if you want strategies or anything like that, let me know. I got plenty of content to be able to put out on YouTube. Just trying to get the channel to grow and build a great community of traders that are like-minded, that like to trade the futures market. Okay, well, without further ado, I'm going to call it a night, and that's pretty much it for today's lesson on technical levels and on supply and demand zones. And remember to practice and identify those support and resistance areas, on your charts, because it's pretty important. If you don't, you'll find yourself chasing and thinking that you can just make a quick dollar or two scalping, and that's not going to happen. You're going to blow up your account before you know it. Anyways, like, subscribe, and let's get some good trades next week. All right, take care.